Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the ninth episode of Truth Tracker, a podcast dedicated to combating misinformation within the political scene of the United States of America on a wide array of political topics. I want to first start off by thanking everyone for tuning into today's episode. It definitely means a lot seeing your support and enthusiasm as we continue to keep this podcast going as we keep on progressing. And so that definitely means the world to me, and I really appreciate everyone's support and enthusiasm. So thank you. Furthermore, I would really appreciate it if you could first off subscribe if you have been enjoying the podcast, like this episode if you're excited about learning about some of the misinformation that's currently going on in social media, as well as turn on post notifications. That way you can be notified anytime this podcast releases one of our new weekly episodes. And so yeah, that's pretty much all the new stuff for me. There are currently no new updates that we have at this time regarding the podcast. We're just gonna keep on running it the same way we have been. So we're gonna be following the same agenda that we have these last couple episodes, where we're gonna bust 10 myths on a political issue. So for today, we'll bust 10 myths on social media, which has been a political topic that has been gaining a lot of misinformation on it in the last couple years. And so it's important that we, address that misinformation, make sure that, people are getting an accurate representation of what social media is. And so then we will go into our weekly civic engagement episode, where we talk about our segment where we talk about the importance of voting before wrapping things up. And so, with that being said, let's get into today's episode where we bust 10 myths on social media. So, our first myth is that your data is completely private online. Now, many users believe that their personal data is secure when using online services. However, there are a wider range of companies, specifically on social media, that collect and share and actually often sell user data to third-party apps and companies without the explicit consent of the consumer. Furthermore, privacy policies are often, these sort of lengthy and complex documents, which lead users to overlook how their information is used. And even with privacy settings, users frequently sort of underestimate the extent of data collection through cookies, tracking pixels, and third-party integrations. And so at the end of the day, that this sort of destroys the notion that your data is completely private online, as at the end of the day, also social media and the internet can be considered to be the sort of public domain, and so any of your data that's on there can never technically be truly considered private. And so at the end of the day, it's super important to consider the sort of or be very careful of the data that you're keeping online, as oftentimes it's not completely private. And so this myth is not true. Your data is not completely private online. And we got this information from technology.org, which is a very reputable site that produces a lot of accurate information regarding technology and social media. And so this myth that your data is completely private online is not true, as there's a wide range of companies and apps that is involved in social media that collect, share, and often sell user data without the explicit consent of the consumer. Our next myth is that only large companies can collect your data. Now, while many major tech companies, famously such as Google and Facebook, are known for their extensive data collection practices, there are also many small companies and small businesses and various apps of all sizes within social media that gather significant amounts of personal information from misinformation. Many small companies specifically involved with social media actually leverage certain data analytics from their consumers to enhance their marketing strategies. And so this can, include collecting app data through apps or maybe sources that are not ethical or well regulated, which often makes users vulnerable to data use. And so this actually can often result in users or large or companies of all different sizes gaining access to the the data of their users without their specific consent. And so this sort of notion that only large companies have access to your data and collect it is simply not true. Many companies of all different sizes and arrays do it and collect your data. And so this myth is simply not true. Only large companies do not collect your data. A wide array of companies actually do end up collecting your data. And we got this information from Wired, which is another very reputable source. Our next myth is that I can completely erase my online presence. Now, many users often think they can fully delete their digital footprints on social media by, deleting accounts and posts. However, data actually often remains, for example, data actually often remains sort of archived and backed up by third parties on social media. And so this sort of idea that you can completely erase your online presence is not true, as the data still often remains there, even after taking steps to remove your personal information. For example, traces of it can still linger on social media or in search engine caches or through databases that compile information from various sources. And so this sort of creates the idea that full erasure is completely is virtually impossible nowadays with the wider range of the internet and social media and the sort of consideration the characterization that the internet and social media have as a public domain. And so this myth is not true. It is virtually impossible to erase your online presence on social media, and we got this information on Wired. So this is a very reputable source that produces accurate and fact-checked information. Our next myth is that strong passwords are often enough for security on social media platforms. Now, although strong passwords are a critical way to promote cybersecurity and secure your online presence on social media platforms, they're not the sort of silver bullet and the sort of golden rule for security. Many breaches on social media often occur due to phishing or social engineering or poor security practices by social media companies. And so relying solely on passwords can create this sort of false sense of security. And that's why it's extremely important that you employ additional measures to protect yourself against cyber breaches, such as two-factor authentication, because methods like those significantly enhance user protection against unauthorized access. And so, at the end of the day, strong passwords are not enough for security on social media platforms, as there are many other ways that hackers and other unethical data collections can get access to your data through bypassing your password and through using other methods. And so this myth is not true. Strong methods are not enough for security on social media platforms. Our next myth is that social media is an accurate reflection of reality. Now, many users often, can assume that, what they see on social media represents, true events and true opinions and this sort of true reflection of what's going on around the world. However, social media platforms and social media content often portrays a sort of distorted reality through curated content, selective sharing, as well as misinformation. Furthermore, social media can create a skewed perception of reality, where popular opinions can actually overshadow nuanced discussions, and this sort of distortion and bias can lead to misunderstandings and really reinforce harmful stereotypes. And that's why it's really essential that users approach social media critically and recognize its potential for bias and misinformation and manipulation in the content that users consume. Furthermore, this can actually be related to our past episode on AI, as social media often contains many examples of false AI usage, which can lead to false information being portrayed by social media. So at the end of the day, this myth is not true. Social media is not an accurate reflection of reality. We got this information from a book called The Filter Bubble, What the Internet is Hiding from You by Eli Pariser, and this was published in 2011, and which is a very accurate book regarding the information that social media portrays. So this myth is not true and has been busted. Our next myth is that social media has no real impact on society. Now, so many people believe that social media is just a sort of casual pastime with little influence on the real world. However, it actually plays a significant role in shaping public opinion, political movements, as well as social norms, as well as cultural styles as well. So, for example, social media can also mobilize communities, amplify voices, and really drive social change, for example, as seen in various movements around the globe. Furthermore, on the other flip side, however, it can also facilitate the spread of misinformation and division, as social media can be characterized as being this sort of public domain for the world to use. And so, therefore, recognizing the sort of power of social media, while also acknowledging that it can be a double-edged sword at times, is essential for understanding its benefits, drawbacks, and its effects on society, and ultimately make sure that we're encouraging positive and responsible use of social media. And so, this myth that social media has no true impact on society is not true. And we got this information from CNN, which is a very accurate news organization and has produced a fact checked and reliable information regarding social media. Our next myth is that encryption guarantees privacy. Now, while encryption, which is the idea of protecting your data or increased protection of your data through various or various internet methods, um, while that sort of while encryption, so that's essentially the definition of encryption, and so while encryption provides a significant layer for security on social media platforms, it is not this sort of end all be all where people simply can believe that just by having encryption, um, you know, your data is protected. That is not true, as encryption does not prevent metadata collection or eliminate risks associated with, cyber vulnerabilities on social media. And so, to dive deeper into this myth, it's very important to get sort of this deeper definition of encryption that goes deeper than the definition that we presented, right? And so, I guess the common definition that AI of encryption is this sort of, this data security protection method, right? But it's important to kind of dive into how that occurs. And so the way it occurs is that it's a form of data security in which the information is converted to ciphertext, which is a form of text online, and only authorized people who have only authorized people who have access can to this data can decipher the code and access the original data information, as the data is obviously converted to ciphertext, so people will not be able to understand it. And so, to simplify that, essentially, encryption is just a way to render data unreadable to this sort of to a party or people that are not allowed to see your data. And so, essentially, users often assume that these sort of encrypted messages and these encrypted data are often entirely secure. However, if the encryption, for example, is poorly implemented or if a device is compromised, data can still be exposed. And so, this sort of idea that encryption guarantees privacy is not true, as there are so many weaknesses regarding encryption, and so it's important for everyone to invest in other various data protection and cybersecurity methods as well. And so this sort of like notion that encryption guarantees this sort of encryption guarantees 100% privacy is simply not true. Our next myth is that all data breaches are the result of hacking. Now, this myth sort of results from this, or kind of stems from popular culture, like media, or in media, movies, or TV shows, where they show that, many data breaches occur from hacking. However, and this leads many people to believe that all data breaches occur in the real world on social media platforms due to malicious hacking. However, a significant number of breaches actually result from human error, which is very interesting. These types of human error are, for example, such as misconfigured databases or accidental leaks. And so, this idea that cyber this sort of idea that all data breaches are the result of hacking is not true. While cyber attacks do pose a threat, it's important to understand that many of our breaches stem from preventable mistakes on social media, which highlights the need for full ranged and comprehensive data management, as well as training on social media to minimize the risk of your data or your online presence being hacked. And we got the information from this myth, as well as the last myth and previous myths, from the Data Breach Investigations Report, as well as the MIT Press, which are two, very reputable sources that we have that have produced accurate and verifiable information. Our next myth is that social media is a private space for communication. Now, many users actually believe that their conversations on social media platforms are private. However, content shared on these platforms can actually be viewed by others, and may be viewed by others as well as a social media company, and may be subject to data mining. Furthermore, social media can is actually generally considered, now at least, is emerging to be this sort of public domain for the entire world to use. And so even private messages can still be accessed by companies for advertising purposes, or accidentally maybe leaked due to data breaches. And users often, underestimate how easily their personal information can be shared or exposed on social media. And so this myth that social media is 100% a private space for communication is not true. Even though there are private methods for communication on social media, it is not truly private, as these content shared on social media platforms can be leaked to these companies and be subject to data mining, for example. And we got this information from the Yale University Press. And so it's important to always be aware of the content and the data that you're sharing on social media, as it's not a truly private space for communication. So this myth that social media is a private space for communication is not true. Our final myth for today is that incognito mode completely protects my privacy. Now, incognito or which essentially are just private browsing modes. They prevent local history from being saved on your device, but they do not offer true anonymity. Websites and social media websites, or social media websites and social media apps can still track users, and they can still, for example, those websites, or okay, if you're using websites for social media use, those websites can still for example, monitor your browsing activity. Users often misconstrue incognito mode as this means of total privacy, which will never let their data be collected or leaked, for example. However, this sort of notion neglects the fact that it does not shield them from data collection by websites or external monitoring. And so, at the end of the day, all incognito mode does is it deletes or prevents local history from being saved on your device, but it does not offer true anonymity when it comes to preventing your data from being collected by the social media sites that you use on your browser. And so we got this information from Google Support, which is a very, very reputable technology source that produces accurate information. And so that's sort of the main takeaway that you can actually have from this episode, is that when you're you researching about the when you come across information, especially on social media and about social media, it's very important that you seek out other sources, other very accurate and verifiable sources, to cross check that information and make sure that you're seeing that you're consuming accurate information, as social media, even though it has many benefits, is also a misinformation hub, and as many as is a source for misinformation, and there are also many very just wrong information and around social media, and so therefore it's super important that you use accurate and verifiable sources when consuming information regarding or involving social media. And so, with that being said, that we are done with our misinformation segment for this episode. Now we'll be moving into our civic engagement aspect. And so, as we get closer and closer to the 2024 election, we're going to keep on encouraging everyone to get out there and vote. It's super important to use your voice and make sure that your voice is heard in this election. You know, um, voting allows you to hold your elected leaders accountable, as well as foster the change that you want in your community, and make sure that you can create change through voting. Oftentimes, voting actually, even though it may seem that you're just such a minute and minuscule step, actually, when it's all piled together, has a great way of showing, what you believe in and the policies that you want to support. And so, therefore, it's super important, as your voice matters and your voice should be heard through voting. Voting is also very easy. It's very easy to register and go out there and vote. It's a very seamless process. There's so many poll workers and election workers ensuring that you have a very seamless voting process in order to ensure that your voice is heard in this country's future. And so it's super important to get out there and vote. So many people have died for our right to vote, and so it's important that we all use it and make sure that we get out there and vote. For example, if you're very passionate about a topic like social media and want to ensure that the policies being implemented around it are a policy that you want to advocate for, then it's important that you get out there and vote get out there and vote for the candidates that you want to support, based on, for example, your social media topic or your view on social media, as that can maybe help advance, your beliefs, and so which allows your voice to be heard in your story and your story, your beliefs, and your voice to be heard. And so, yeah, with that being said, it's a way to also ensure our democracy continues to thrive. Our democracy's health is ensured by us, the people of the United States of America. And so it's super important that, we continue to vote to ensure that our democracy continues to thrive on a daily basis. And so, again, if you have any questions regarding voting, make sure to put them down in our comment section. We will make sure to address them. And again, it's very important. Please, please, please get out there and vote. This election, it's a very important. This election is a great way, or voting in this election is a great way that you can advocate for your policies, vote for the officials that you want, no matter what your political beliefs are. It's just important that you get out there and vote, and so that way, your beliefs are entitled to, or your beliefs are heard by elected officials. And so, no matter what you believe in, no matter what candidates you support, it is important to get out there and vote. And so, if you have any questions regarding voting, make sure to put them down in the comment section. And yep, I guess finally, as a final ask for this segment, make sure to get out there and vote, everyone, in the upcoming election. And that should be it for today's episode. I want to start again. Thank everyone for continue watching this episode. If you haven't already done so, make sure to like it. If you enjoyed this episode, as well as comment on it to ensure to let us know what you think about this episode, as well as your thoughts regarding social media and the misinformation on it, as well as civic engagement and voting. And I'll continue to make sure to subscribe if you enjoy this episode, as well as turn on post notifications, so that way you can be notified anytime we upload our weekly episodes. And so, with that being said, thank you so much for tuning into Truth Tracker today, everyone. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.